And now, broadcasting on Star Worldwide Networks, it's In the Green Room. Green is in, but what does that really mean for you? Join the gang for a fun and energetic half-glass, half-full perspective to what and how sustainability is the lifestyle for the future. It can really affect everything you do, from your health, wallet, environment, money, even your morals. So our goal, to help save the planet one show at a time. Now, welcome to the Green Room.
Welcome, everyone, to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet. Happy New Year right off the bat. I hope everybody's having
Happy New Year.
a great 2021 so far.
Happy New Year, Doc.
Happy New Year and welcome to the greatest show on earth. Why be anywhere else on a Tuesday night?
Welcome back, Summer.
Hi, it's Summer. I'm a musician and just a young gal who's got something to say. That's why I'm here.
Happy New Year, Summer.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
We're excited to hear you play later. And welcome,
I think
Sandy.
it's safe to say Summer's officially one of the resident musicians here in the Green Room. Yeah, and one of
100%.
our favorites. So we're lucky to have her. And she's playing a show at the Deuce on Friday. You should go get some tickets. What's the name of the show again?
It is the Rock and Roll Burlesque. I sing for them. We do shows twice a month, the first and third Friday of the month. So you can go to my Instagram, which is just Summer, but with 3 M's, _LEIGH. I'm going to repeat that again because it's stupid complicated. Summer with 3 M's, _LEIGH. And you can find information for that show on Friday.
Well, we're excited to hear you play in a little bit, but we want to welcome Sandy Cowen to the show. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Every time you leave, you come back and you've written a book.
That's about right.
But even before you wrote books, your career was so impressive. You were a communications, marketing strategist, consultant, president, founder of the Cowen Agency here in Phoenix, Arizona for 30 years, multi-million-dollar organization. You doubled the profits of that institution 7 times during your tenure. So that's just, outstanding as a citizen and contributing member of society.
Yeah.
So congratulations for such a colorful and contributory career.
Thank you. You want to see the arrows in my back? I was one of those early women business owners in town. So,
And you had a wonderful son.
I did, in fact.
And sadly, he's not with us anymore. But you have written a book called Hi Mama, It's Me.
So that book just was published in October of 2020.
Yes, late October.
And your first book in 2008, which
Correct.
both are fascinating, but the health book is also very fascinating.
Thank you.
Get well even when you've been told you can't. And so it's pretty, really remarkable how you have healed from so many different diseases naturally. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the interesting thing, I'm going to do one little sidebar. Both books are really about empowerment. When you think about it, one's empowerment in healing, and the other one is empowerment in spiritual development and being connected. So they're both kind of empowering books, but I couldn't have written the second without having gone through everything that went into the first. So you're asking about my health history, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about that.
The first book is a book that sort of explains and manages the expectations of a holistic healing journey. And my health history was horrible. In the ad business, anybody who's watched Mad Men, you know how crazy advertising people were back in the 60s and 70s, and 3 martini lunches, and it was horrible. So we all pushed too hard, too much stress, smoked cigarettes and did all that. Well, my body finally broke down in early 80s, and I developed the first of several autoimmune conditions that plagued me for years and managed to overcome them all prior to this book. They were rheumatoid arthritis, leukemia, hyperthyroidism, psoriasis, chronic allergies, all without conventional medicine and without pharmaceuticals. So what led me to be able to do the second book 12 years later was the fact that when I was going cold turkey with the rheumatoid arthritis, which is a very painful condition when you get the big attacks and the stuff, very painful, I learned to keep my mind real quiet. Because if your mind is still, it sort of diminishes pain just a little bit, puts like a damper on it. And when your mind is really active and racing, pain intensifies. So I got real still real often. And over a period of months and then years, I've learned to stay totally blank. It's not a blonde thing. It's a state of mind thing. So I'm pretty much in the present moment most of the time. And when your mind is that quiet, eventually you can hear the whispers. So without being able to hear that, I never would have been able to write this second book.
So what were the natural ways that you healed yourself?
Oh, golly. Because most of my conditions were autoimmune related, I realized that I had once had a very healthy immune system. And if you've had a healthy immune system once, you can get it back there. I mean, it's sort of like rebooting.
Vitamin C?
Well, it was more than that. It was very complex. And actually, I put a list of 15 things that weaken the immune system or strengthen the immune system. And I break them down into mind, body, and spirit, because some attitudes can actually weaken your immune system. Negativity, anger, all of the fear-based and negative emotions weaken a person. All the love-based, gratitude, compassion, all of those strengthen a person. Too much sleep, a lot of sleep is good. Not enough sleep is not good. And so you can go through a list of about 15 different things. And I put that list together having, been led to answers that worked for me. So those are the things Kinga I did. All the things that strengthen my immune system, and not taking any kind of drugs or medication was part of that. And what eventually happened is my immune system got relaxed and happy and began healing, and my conditions went away.
So do you think those autoimmune disorders came on purely because of your lifestyle choices, or were some of those genetic tendencies? And Dr. James, you might know the answer to this better than anybody.
Well, I can pretty much
Go, Sandy.
I want to hear what you say too, but for sure, stress was a big one. And if I listed all the things that were going on in my life the 8 years prior to this physical breakdown, really, you'd say, oh, nobody can go through all that in 8 years and be standing upright. So stress, horrible lifestyle, and a teeny bit of genetics. But genetics don't surface unless your body's weak enough for genetics to surface.
Right,
Do you agree with that?
And when your parent or relative acquired their disease or manifested their disease beyond a certain age, it's really hard to say that was their genetics and that puts you at risk. Like your mother having congestive heart failure at age 90 wouldn't imply a risk for you particularly.
No, but some of her family did have leukemia. Some of her family did have rheumatoid arthritis. But I honestly believe saying, well, it's in my genes is a cop-out. Because if you take really good care of yourself and you stay strong from an immune system perspective, those things don't have to surface,
It was so interesting. You noticed that when you sleep less than 9 hours a night for several days consecutively, that you'll get a rheumatoid arthritis flare.
Yes, exactly.
Unbelievable.
And if I happen to eat gluten, same thing happens. Or nitrites or sulfites, or pork. And don't ask me on the pork. This was trial and error for my body,
Yeah, and in your keys to recovery, your approach to exercise is very interesting because you look very fit and slim, but your approach to exercise is, I think, surprising, and interestingly, it really mirrors what was found in the blue zone. So I was wondering if you could talk to your approach.
Sure. What exercise?
Okay,
which is so amazing, right?
So you really don't exercise?
No.
Oh, interesting.
No, I used to get massages every week, and I would say that's my involuntary exercise. But I walk some, and I'm mobile around the house. I mean, I'm active. I'm not a slug, that just kind of sits there.
So naturally, you healed yourself, and you wrote this amazing book about it. And then, can you tell us, if we fast forward, then can you tell us a little bit about your son and our amazing connection with your son? Yeah. If you want to tell that, I think that's really an interesting part of the story, and pretty. I believe it's God.
Well, we got connected, didn't we, Kinga?
We did. We did.
Yes. Interestingly, after the getting blonde and having this clear head for several years, I started hearing voices and getting messages. And initially, they were from spirits who were stuck and needed to transition. And by accident, I guess I transitioned a couple, but I could physically feel what was going on when that happened. And
so what do you mean exactly by transitioning them? Does that mean sending them into another spiritual dimension? Or
sending them up to, if you believe in heaven, sending them to heaven, but sending them to the other side. And what happened, the movie Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Everybody loved that.
The original.
Yes, and people talk about, if you have spirits in your house, some people do have entities that float around. People want to shoo them away. Well, they don't want shooing, they want help. So I think ghost busting is barbaric, on the soul level. And but I will help them transition. So that was the first thing. And then I started actually getting messages. And when I'd get them, I would just run and get paper because, you can't remember every nuance of something somebody says. And somebody over there, it's important, or they wouldn't be coming to me. So I write every single word down. And over the last, 20 years, I've got 350 to 375, 3 to 5 page, 8 page letter things, handwritten. And I've saved every one of them. So I had these collected over the years. And then in the summer of 2018, my son John died. And he was my only child. And
do you mind talking about how he died?
No, I don't mind at all. John, early in his life, he was in commercial real estate, very successful. But early in his life, he was a very high-functioning alcoholic. And nobody really noticed. I mean, he had a great sense of humor and lots of fun. And in commercial real estate, that's more of an asset than a liability. So it didn't bother anybody, really, and I never really noticed it was an issue. And then he had 2 back surgeries. So when they started throwing oxycodone at him in huge quantities, I can remember picking him up from a surgery center place, and the script was for 90 pills, 10 milligrams each. Now that's a dose of that stuff. And
so the painkillers after the back surgery.
So he got addicted to the painkillers, which again I didn't know, but over time that's what happened. And he went once to rehab and got clean and sober. So for the last 5 years of his life, he was clean and sober. But because he was trying to reboot his career and make everything happen, I said, come and live with me for the 2 years till you can get on your feet and all that. Besides, it was the best 2 years of my life. I got to iron his shirts, and I had to fuss over him, and he'd roll his eyes. And anyway, before he died, he sort of fell off the program and went out on the street, I guess to buy something affordable. And he picked up non-prescription oxy that was laced with fentanyl.
And you didn't know he was on this
No,
oxy?
I did not know he was on it at all.
So did he act like he was drunk, or?
No, he slept a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And he would complain he still had back issues, but I think a lot of that was psychosomatic to the drugs, you know what I mean?
Well,
but
if he
anyway,
had back surgery, he probably did have back pain.
No, he could have, but
Mm-hmm.
there were other solutions I think that he could have had. But long story short, when he took those pills, they killed him instantly. So I found him that morning when he didn't go to work, and shortly, so he must have died around, I don't know, maybe 3 in the morning or 4, something like that. And at about 8:30, I heard him. I heard him calling about, I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. He was confused. He had no idea what was going on. He wanted a do-over, and that just tore my heart out. Because what can you do? I mean, I couldn't do anything. So it took him about 3 days to make his transition. But from that minute that I first heard him, we've been connected ever since. So John comes to me 3 or 4 times a month. I have lengthy, John's a talker, so I have lengthy messages. And he's funny and he's profound and he answers every question I ask him. And then I go back and dig up all those old messages I've gotten, and they are so eerily similar that I wrote this book to encourage people to be more open to the possibility of connecting and to let them know our loved ones are not that far away. It's just a dimensional thing. It's not a big whoop. I mean, they really see if you really missed your grandma, for example, and you felt like you wanted her around, just talk to her. You just talk to her like she's here.
It's remarkable what you're experiencing. Can we review your religious history?
Oh,
just so we
sure.
understand your background, where you're coming from.
Sure.
Born and raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And then as an adult, you converted to a very conservative form of Judaism. And then ecumenical unity.
Kind of, yeah. I went from...
which is a place I can really see you. Seems unity.
But I never really went to church after that. After I sort of did spiritual exploration. There were 4 of us that used to travel around, and we'd explore ourselves, and I always felt like I had a direct connection. So although I love the thought of community and people coming together in order to worship or to praise, I never felt the need.
So being religious, you believe that there's heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And do you believe is John in heaven?
Yes, but I really didn't, although I believe there's something, and it's probably wonderful, I didn't have a real strong belief system about anything. I'm not rigid about anything. So I'm very open. And that's why all of this process with John kind of tightened everything up for me and gave me structure and helped me see what things are really like.
So I want to let our listeners know that I knew John.
Yes.
And
you start the story.
I'm trying not to cry. You're so strong. I've seen you shed some tears, but you say it right now with just a little tear in your eye. But I feel like I'm going to start bawling because I really liked John. He and I became great friends, and my sister and I and my assistant Tiffany would hang out with him a lot because I like to drink wine, and he was always like, I'll meet you over at Steak 44 or meet you over at Hillstone and let's have a glass of wine. And he was so funny, kind-hearted, the life of the party. And I never noticed that he was an alcoholic, but he just always said great things about his family and his friends. He had a lot of friends. A lot of friends. Mm-hmm. And so I do miss him, and I did not know that your son had passed away. And this is where this part of the story is very, I think it's God, because we have, Sandy and I have a mutual friend named Rolf. He owns the hair salons here in Arizona, and he invited me to a charity event and wanted Sandy and I to sit next to each other. And
he had no idea. I mean, he didn't know if I knew Kinga, didn't know Kinga, whatever, but he thought we should sit together.
Yeah. There was a big table of 10, and he wanted us to sit together. Mm-hmm. And so we became just
Well, we were just chatting, and she was saying, like, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm finishing up a book, or I'm working on a book. I forgot what stage. And she, oh, what's it about? And then I told her my son had passed. Oh, what was his name? And I told her, and she said, do you have a picture of him? And I said, sure. And I pulled up the picture on the phone and on my phone, and she said, oh my God, I knew him.
And then I showed you a picture of us because I had a picture of the two of us in the.
And
in my
she
phone.
said, I wondered why he quit calling.
Wow.
That's something.
A book you read frequently is the book Jesus Calling.
Every morning.
Right. So that's interesting. So you identify with Jesus as your spiritual source of.
I didn't for years and years because, I don't tell anybody this story, so you're going to get the inside skinny. I was resentful in my 20s and early 30s because everybody would talk about Jesus being the Son of God. And I thought, well, I'm a child of God too. And I understand that his structure was different. I get that. But it was like nobody else was a son of God and nobody else was a daughter of God. And I really resented it. So when people we'd do collective prayer, or we'd do something before something would start, and they'd say in Jesus' name, I wouldn't say anything. I was boycotting. In my own stupid, quiet way, I was boycotting. Well, one day, years later, I went to a psychic, which I didn't do a lot of, but I did do this time, a guy in Sun City who also channeled Ascended Masters. And after we were done, we were talking about something. Of course, I always went to find out where the man of my dreams was. That was always a favorite excuse. And he said, Jesus is coming through and wants to talk to you. And I said, well, it figures, because I thought he's really going to scold me. And then that's when we reconnected, and he's been sort of my go-to guy, although I do hear from Buddha, and I hear from Mother Mary. I hear from others.
Well, that's why I want to say that I think that just you and I meeting, to me, that's God bringing us together.
No question.
I mean, it's just, for me to have known John, and then for us to now we're like so close. I feel like you and I are like family. And I think that, God, brings people together in mysterious ways. And I just, you left me speechless. I had to take a break and just remember John for a minute,
Well, I will tell you that you could refer to me as like a sister instead of like a mother, because that's really what I am.
And on that happy note, I want to reminisce and think about John. If Summer could play a beautiful song. We are in Lift Up My Spirits right now because
Take it away.
I want to cry. I miss John.
Because he's saying, it was me that brought you two together, not God, it was me.
Oh.
No, I'm telling you, he's been here the whole time with her. Just letting you know.
Well, let's see.
So Summer.
Hi,
Summer.
Well, that was absolutely just amazing to listen to. I cannot even imagine all of the things that you've been through, and thank you so much for coming on here and sharing with us. It's really, really a special moment. You can feel it for sure. You can definitely feel it. It's a very special moment for everybody here.
It is special.
It feels really very nice in here, and I feel like everybody's kind of on the same wavelength right now for sure. We're all in a nice, happy space. So
Thank
just
you.
want to play a song. I'm like, everybody feels emotional right now. My goodness. Let's see. I'm going to steal this mic.
Well, I think you should read the book.
Absolutely. I think
Hi, Mom,
everybody
it's
should
me.
read the book.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Absolutely.
All right. This is a song. I still haven't named it. I don't know if anybody in here would have any idea on what to call it. If anything pops out, let me know. I've been struggling with it for over a year. So this is just a song that I wrote. I know a simple thing is love, and you know that you're the only one, and it's our time.
washed below the ocean. Rolled in a heart I can't love, and I'll stay now that I've become your heart, ascending to mine, and the dark we know is washed below inside. If you see something in me, I must have lost memories in time as you became my mind. If you see something you like, I must be doing it right. And now I'm sinking in the safety you bring me. Oh, you bring me. Dark nights bring me back to you, where my mind is circling and all I feel, but you know that I fall down on you, and the dark we know is washed below the ocean. With you, I'm with you, I'm with you. And I know it's in my head, but I don't know the end of it, and I'm losing my head is ever spinning, and everybody knows I'm right. And I know I'm in my head, but I don't know the end of it, and I'm losing my head is ever spinning, and everybody knows I'm right. So what? Is everybody so unstable? And I've got all my goods on the table, and we've got a long way to go till the dark we know is washed below the ocean. If you see something in me, I must have lost memories in time as you became my mind. If you see something you like, I must be doing it right. And now I'm sinking in the safety you bring me, and I'm sinking in the safety you bring me. Oh, you bring me, and I'm sinking. Thank you. Get your microphone back.
Wow.
Thank you.
You're just so angelic.
Thank you so much. I just really thought that the lyrics of that song seemed to fit pretty well with what we've been talking about. So
It was a
that
perfect
stuck
fit.
out to me. I don't know what you said about him being here in the room. Like that's literally sticking with me. I can feel it.
I just feel like I just want you to keep
I feel
singing.
like crying. That's.
I know. I mean, I just I couldn't stop from crying, and I thought I just need Summer to play right now to feel better. Oh, Summer.
Like I don't know why. I feel
It's
like
okay.
really emotional.
No, I know.
Oh my god.
Give her a hug. Give her a hug. I think we all need hugs here.
So, Sandy, as you were starting to explain some of the metaphysics of heaven and John, you came up with a Bible verse that's been really important to me for a long time. In my Father's house are many mansions. And I think we've all understood that kind of in a conventional sense, to think of heaven as a housing development. There's many mansions because we all need a mansion, so we're all going to go there and live in a gated community with our own mansion. But to you, it is much more significant than that.
Yes,
Or has a
and
different significance for sure.
Yes, and the remembering that quote, and I'm not a Bible student, but remembering that quote came after the realization of what the structure of heaven is really like.
Mm.
And it's not, well, it is the traditional generic heaven. You know what I mean? With
Right.
like the white noise and the gorgeous clouds and the angels floating around and love permeating everything. And I mean, it's wonderful. And familiar souls kind of floating by. But you pass through that to get to the initial place where you reflect on your life. And you've all heard people talk about when your life flashes before you and all that. Well,
So are you talking about like right after John passed,
when
he was able to talk to you?
when right after he passed, he was transitioning, getting there. Okay, once you get there, you pass through this traditional heaven, the white light, the beautiful surroundings, the normal heaven.
It's for
look.
seconds, literally seconds that you're there.
Yeah, you go through that, and then you go into this reflection place. I don't know what to call it. A lot of the spirits, when they would come to me earlier, they'd say, "Well, you just showed up on the radar screen," but they don't have a radar screen up there. But it was a metaphor for what they were trying to say. But there is a place where you can look at your past life, the life you just experienced.
Is this is what John has told you?
Oh yeah, but
Okay.
many others have told me too.
Okay, so
So you see your life, and it's not that you understand what you did to other people. That's not the reason for this. You feel what you did to other people. That's the reason for this. So if you hurt others or made them very sad or whatever, the emotion that you did that was destructive, you feel the same thing they felt.
Right.
So you have the realization at a feeling level, not an intellectual level. And it's painful. I mean, it's painful. And I will do a little sidebar on hell because it really isn't the fire and brimstone and little red men with pitchforks. I mean, it's really not that. It is, you go through the same place, you feel the same extraordinary glory for half a second, and then when you go into reflection, if you were really, really, really bad, Hitler comes to mind. Can you imagine how long eternity would be for him to feel the pain of every single person he hurt? I mean, it goes on forever. I mean, they'd never get out of there. And so it's your own punishing of yourself. There's nobody up there scolding you or punishing you. You see and you feel and you punish yourself. And so that's kind of, and when they're in that state, John explained this, that their frequency diminishes. So they're like invisible. So they don't get to see any of the fabulous. They don't get to feel all that extraordinary love everywhere. They've missed all that. They saw it for a second, but then, you're grounded. So they're in that other room and that other place. And for most, it isn't all that painful. It's a fairly quick reflection. And that's where you might decide, I need to work on this. I was not a very compassionate person, or I was not very understanding, or...
Well, that's where I think your book would really help people, because if you are not on good terms with somebody in your family, or you're, maybe a friend or family, and you're, really need to strengthen some of your relationships, it makes you think twice, maybe I'm neglecting somebody, or maybe I'm not spending enough time with somebody.
John spent a year and a half making amends to me. He spent a year and a half telling me how sorry he was and how he, and it was...
You mean after he passed? Mm-hmm. So after he passed, what was he feeling sorry for? What?
Oh, for being a little poop, of a son. He would... How do I say it? I mean, you know how a 15-year-old boy acts toward his mother sometimes? They'll roll their eyes and they'll get real testy and real cocky and real stupid. Well, it isn't cute when you're 40 and you're doing the same thing.
It was so interesting you said that he was so good at what he did, everything he touched turned to gold, that he looked around and he couldn't understand why everybody couldn't be successful. Like, why are you people losers? Why aren't you making it? I do it so easily, you can't.
Yes, and that was not in this life. That was in previous lives. And this life was a karma experience for my son, which I did not know.
I
But
see.
he explained to me because in past lives, 2 of them actually, he was like that, just like you said, Doc. And so he had to learn, he didn't have to learn compassion, because that's sort of an intellectual kind of different level thing. He had to feel what it was like to be helpless, to not be able to get out of your own way, to not be able to make your life good. And John made his first $500,000 check when he was barely 30. So the kid saw success real quick and then never could make it come back. Do you see what I'm saying? The addiction took over his life, and his judgment was wrong on everything. Everything was screwed up. And so it was a good thing the good Lord took him when he took him.
Yeah, that was interesting. You thought it was the right time for him to pass, actually.
Yeah, I think so. Because he had fallen off the wagon and had this serious addiction.
I don't really
now.
understand that. That statement that you think
Yeah,
it's
I
the right
think
time for him to
anybody
pass.
taken by an opioid, I think it's too soon.
I mean,
It's a drug made in a lab, basically. Yeah.
no, but I'm just saying, like, for him to be here, I mean, if he could have been healed, then he would have been okay, right?
Healed from the addiction.
He could have been in his kid's life more too.
Right.
Oh, he was a real good father.
He was always talking about his kids.
Yeah, he was a real good father. His problem was that he didn't have the money to do what he wanted to do with them and what he wanted to do for them. And because when he got on more drugs, he slept a lot. And then, so that took time away from his kids.
Opioids are truly evil. Like they can
Oh, horrible.
absolutely possess someone and totally change their neurochemistry. So,
They're horrible.
yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway,
So, Summer, do you have a question? Do you have any thoughts on what we're talking about?
Oh, I mean, I don't really necessarily have any questions just because I really love hearing you talk about this because clearly you've got such a open mind and you're very open to like feeling things, which I definitely, I feel that same thing. I'm very sensitive to like energy and, you know, people's feelings and stuff. So like, I don't know. It just, I can feel everyone right now and it is wonderful.
do you want to hear about the second heaven?
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Of course.
I do too.
Well, there's, from what I've now been told by multiple souls, there is a second heaven. And that one happens to be what your greatest joy was in this life. So for some, it's the ocean and all of the experiences around that. For others, for my son, it's golf. He's golfing all over the world, you know, and all these wonderful courses and things. For others, one friend's father was a world-class big game hunter and master fisherman thing, you know, on yachts and that kind of fishing. And when he came to me, he said, I am surrounded by so many amazing animals. He loved the animals in Africa and all over. And he said, these extraordinary animals, both living and both current and extinct.
Wow.
So can you imagine?
My
I mean,
goodness.
you see dinosaurs and all of these different things.
It's incredible.
Because it's whatever you can fathom.
I
you
actually
know.
do have a question since you did mention past lives and that how does that work? Because I know there's different ideas on how that works and, you know, the idea that everybody is everyone and you're just being reincarnated at different times and, you know, the world. But what's your take on that?
I guess my take on that, and those who read the book will get by the time you get to the end of the book, this book is all about unconditional love. And the soul's yearning, the soul's goal is to be as pure as its creator. And that's 100% love. I mean, that's divine love. So we're a long ways from that, guys, I gotta tell you. But the soul tries to get there. And so when they look at their life and they see where they're weak and where they haven't quite mastered it, and like John says, I'm not, he didn't use the word pure, but he said my frequency isn't yet high enough to hang with the big dogs.
Right, the ascended masters.
Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, that's so disrespectful. Everybody thinks it's hysterical that's come to me. They think hanging with the big dogs was really funny. So I guess it wasn't offensive to anybody over there. But it is, the more pure you can get your soul, and that's why you come back, to work on these things, to refine the metal, so eventually you can reflect the face of God. I think that's somewhere in the Bible too. I don't know.
So, Sandy, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to people that don't believe that you are actually, that this is true?
Yes. What I would say
that
is...
it's maybe not all made up. I mean, some
by
people
the-
might say that.
I'd say buy the book and just be open. Don't judge. Just start reading. And when you get to something that feels really weird to you, just pretend like it's fiction. And read on by it, and then you'll get to pieces that will resonate with you, that will feel true. Because I think I've got a chapter in there about, my gosh, all the TV shows and the movies and all the things they talk about, spirits and mediums and things all the time. And people, angels, and people know somewhere in their heart that some of this is real.
Well, I really, before meeting you, I wouldn't have believed any of this. But the reason why I do believe is because I think John did bring us together. Because, I mean, of all the people out there, for us to have sat next to that lunch, sat next to each other at that lunch, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It really is.
The other thing I think that's why I'm a good messenger for this is because I'm not woo-woo. I'm really not somebody who prances around in my Birkenstocks and, I don't hug trees and I don't kumbaya or any of that. I'm a pragmatic, business type, results-oriented, no nonsense, excellent reputation in town. Why would I screw that up with this, for God's sake? I'm out
Chad,
of the closet.
I want to know if do you believe this? What
Well,
this book
I
is
totally
about?
believe that people have spiritual experiences, and I think it's a varying degree with everyone, with how many personal experiences that they have. But I don't necessarily think I have the right tools to communicate with souls on another dimension, but I totally believe that they exist and that they're there. So,
I mean, if I kick the
Yeah, I
bucket when
believe
I'm
it.
101 and I'm able to sit there and do you think I'll be able to sit there and talk to you all the time?
Well, I don't know. I guess time will tell, but I've never been able to communicate with past or other family members that have passed away, like my grandpa or anything like that. But what I do is I just remember how he lived his life and try to live in a way that would make him proud. So that way, if he can see me, then he'll be proud. So,
That's a good thing to do.
That's a great thing.
I think
That's
that
great.
everyone, their soul is a higher dimensional being. So when you die, your soul goes to whatever dimension that is, maybe the fourth dimension, maybe a dimension we don't even know because we're too primitive to even detect it. But I definitely think the soul has to go somewhere. So
A more traditional Christian view would be, if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness, meaning that we are helpless to transform ourselves. We are totally dependent on the saving grace of Christ. We need Christ to recreate us in his image and to give us perfection. At what point is this Jesus and God rescuing us as opposed to us going through karmic transitions and figuring it out on our own?
Well, given the fact that we punish ourselves, God gave us free will. God gave us total free will. He let Eve screw around with the apple. He let him mess up everything. And when people say, how can God let this hurricane happen, or how can he let this little child die or this baby die? Those are our life paths. Those are things that we choose to come back and experience for some reason. Maybe we're an example to somebody else. Maybe we're Maybe we're there to leave money. Our passing is tied to somebody else's welfare. Do you see what I'm saying? We don't have a clue, which is why I always say you don't judge anybody because you have no idea what their life is. You have
It's
no
so
idea
true.
what their path is.
Yes.
And I believe that God
Yes.
gave us ultimate choice. And so it's not up to, even though I think Jesus showed us the way to forgiveness and to come back when he came back. But I'm not sure that that didn't also mean that it's okay to come back. You know, people don't, there's hardly any mention of the Essenes in the Bible. And the Essenes were Mary's family's people. That was a sect of Judaism. And they did believe in reincarnation and some of the mystic. So I think if Jesus would have been really against it, there would have been parts in the Bible where he would have said, this is not right. But the fact that it was omitted, I think leaves the door open.
So the fact that you
And I'm not, I mean, that's just my perception.
So Sandy, you do believe in God then?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because I told a few people about the show and your book, and they said, "Oh, well, I'm not sure if if somebody is writing a book about that, then they might not believe in God."
Yeah.
And so I was just curious.
The end of the book ends on the most beautiful message from him to me about 8 or 9 years ago. And
I mean, the
it's
Bible's
all
totally.
about love.
Sorry, I was going to say the Bible's totally filled with different people being visited by spirits. So that your friend saying that kind of doesn't make sense because the Bible's totally full of cases that are similar to hers.
And I think I think a lot of people are afraid, Chet. I think that's the deal. I think they're afraid of what somebody is connecting to. And my answer to that is there are two emotions. There's love, which is pure in God. And then there's fear. It's not anger. It's not hate. That's not the opposite of love. Because the fear is the opposite of love. Because fear creates hate. Fear creates anger. Fear creates jealousy. When you think about it. And the devil, if you believe in the devil, what do you think he works with? Fear.
Well, if you believe in God,
fear.
then you also have to believe in the devil. I mean,
Well, you have to
typically.
believe there's evil spirits because there's a yin and yang, and so
These are the
it's
barriers
fear.
to transitioning that you've written about.
A lot of things in fear will hold you back in the fear-based emotions, and no messages I have ever received have the slightest hint of manipulation, fear, anything that's anything but warm and loving and nurturing.
So Sandy, Lily has a quick question for you.
Oh, sure.
So I'm curious to hear what she has to say.
So when you get these messages, how do you know that they're messages from spirits? And is it like a sense of intuition, or how did you, what was the moment when you were like, yes, I know what this is?
You are
Great question.
We didn't even talk about that.
We're getting there.
Great question. Okay. How I know, because this is a frequency issue like we talked about, they mess with electrical. It's real easy for them because it's frequency. So for me, who is technologically challenged anyway, you don't even want to know what happens to my computer or my phone or my car. I go for
And
a
the
walk
lights.
at
You said the
night.
lights will flash.
Lights will flash. One time, this only happened once, but one time a fluorescent bulb actually blew up and fell out of the socket. That was my half-brother. That was bizarre. But when I go for walks, there are street lights on my block. And always, John will come and the lights will go off and on. There are no sensors in these lights.
It's
they
incredible.
don't do that for anybody else.
Right.
So while we think and reflect on John and know that he's here with you, if we could hear another song from Summer.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we're talking about fear. I'm afraid we're not going to get to hear another summer song before the show ends. So
And we are here saving the planet.
One
show at a time.
Thank you. All right. So it's like that and that. All right, sorry about that.
Okay,
guys.
great.
Should have had this ready.
Beautiful light, you are shining in the dark, my star. Blazing upon the fields, dancing in rain, I fell so far. Love, oh, 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 follow me down. Love, oh, 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 show me around. Here we are now, just kids fighting the crowd. Hear this. We are the last, we'll be. We are the first to be. Something to complain about, love. Oh, 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 follow me down. Love, oh, oh, oh. So we'll take a deeper day till we can stop believing it's true. So we'll take a deeper day, and I put all my faith into you. Oh, they don't believe it, they don't feel your fire. Oh, they don't see when you're out at night. Oh, just believe it, we can set this world on fire. Love, oh, 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 follow me down. Love, oh, 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 love, oh, 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 follow me down. Oh, love, Thank you so much.
That just touched my soul.
Oh, thank you.
The words are just so perfect for our show tonight.
you. Yeah, both of those songs out of all of the songs that I've written ever just kind of stuck out to me. I don't know why. Something just seemed to connect there. It felt like those were the right songs to sing right now.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
So, Sandy, you are sitting on volumes of literal transcriptions that you have written out as you are receiving messages. Mm-hmm. You have this, and you haven't shared share those with us. So, can you talk about your third book?
Yeah, there you go.
And what's on the horizon?
I'll have to be on the show once again, maybe next year.
Absolutely.
You mentioned publishing the experiences of famous people who have messaged you.
And you only have a minute, so
Yeah, a whole lot of famous ones have been
Because
coming.
we'll pay attention. Not that their experiences are unique, but we'll pay attention. Particularly Jimi Hendrix. Tell us about Jimi Hendrix.
I don't think I have time for that story. But if you go on my website, Sandy Cowen, COWEN.com, and go to my blog page, you'll find a Jimi Hendrix story, and it's wonderful.
His regret didn't stick around long enough to inspire other young black men to play the guitar.
That's right. He burned out too quickly.
Wow.
well, we are just thrilled you were here tonight, and I'm excited to encourage everybody to read Hi Mama, It's Me. Chet, you need a copy.
I've got one, yep.
It's on Amazon,
All right.
and it's on my website. And
All right. Well, thank you so much. Summer, you need a copy too so that you can read it. Do we have one for Summer?
I didn't know how many
It's
were
all
here.
right. I'll get one soon.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Saving the planet.
One
show at a
time.
Thank you for listening to In the Green Room. Join us here live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. or anytime on demand 24/7 on StarWorldWideNetworks.com.